Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about naming and let's start with the definition.
It's very funny, but there is just two skills in the school of troubleshooters which are not which has no direct translation to Russian language because it was implemented in my memory, in my brain by American ones. This is wording and this is naming. Name, this is how to give a name to something. For example, you open a company, or maybe you think how to name your product or your service or something else, and you should be very careful. If you will steal the name, you could be prosecuted. If you will take a very often used term, you will be diving too deep and you will be never seen on the first pages of search engines. If you will implement new word, maybe it will not float and you will get the problems. For example, we were thinking how to name school of troubleshooters, and there were a lot of different thinking. It could be schools, it could be university or academy and something like this. And there was a thinking, school is more valuable name and maybe no one wants to steal it. Okay, school of troubleshooting or school of troubleshooters. Yes, we'll teach the people slow troubleshooters. The same was naming of our dentistry with my wife, and first name was with smile to Hollywood. So you could make all procedures and then you will go to Hollywood to show your smile. But everyone was thinking it's too long, so we cut it just to Hollywood. And when we type it in Yandex browser or in Google search engine, sometimes it will correction. Maybe you thinking not to Hollywood, but just Hollywood, and this is Californian city. And it spent us like 3 years to give all this search engine understanding that this is a new world. So when you make naming, you should think about all of this.
And when we look into different facts of the naming, probably we also may want to think, how our customers will be comparing us to someone else, or maybe how we could distinguish. And maybe there are a couple of things that I also would like us to look into the structure of the name as well, like maybe, like a number of words, or maybe using a different, vowels or not. Because, for example, if you look into some of the, catchy companies, yes, probably they build their names just because of their achievements, but sometimes I do believe like the name is also could be, like going ahead of the company so that it could really create an image. So when it comes to thinking of the structure or like something which might be really invisible or not really like a barely sensible, so what kind of things we should consider when we're trying to come up with a good name?
There is several прием methods.
Math, mechanics.
So mechanics how to name something. First is to steal very often a word. For example, there is special cards for loyalty program in the Russia, and its name like halva, or another one is corn. Halva and kukuruza, and it's a very easy one. Previously, it was like raspberry, malina. It's very easy to pronounce, but it will not help you to grow bigger. Second, you should think maybe there is I don't know how to say, maybe is rhythm.
Rhyme.
Maybe there is a rhyme, and if you could use it, it would be a great one. For example, I have a friend of mine, and he asked how to name this company, and I was helping him, and we name it like супы and каши блинцова Саши, soaps and I don't know how to say, soups
Porridge.
and porridges made by name of the guy, and it was like rim, and it was easy to remember. Another one is to know how to make from the name gлагол, action,
Verb.
verb. For example, to Google, so to search, to Hollywood, to make something looking like in Hollywood. So if you able to make from your name verb, it's really useful. And another one, you should think that your name should be distinguished, различаться. distinguish from others. For example, even name of our dentistry to Hollywood, it was a mistake because too many doctors in Russia use Hollywood Smile, Dr. Hollywood, and some other. And I was fighting with my wife for a very long time, but she told me I want to have Hollywood in the name. So it's, I don't know how to say, it's like a commonly and widely expected, but it's not a good one. If you, for example, look for butter, if you look, for example, for a beer, some of those became like a special name. And when you will say Hugarden, or when you will say, for example, I don't know, some other kind of cheese, like blue cheese and so on, everyone will understand, okay, you're talking exactly about something. So you should know how to grow your name in separate subject.
Sometimes, like when we give a name to something, there might be a time when, like there is a change of direction or like any circumstances that would let us actually give us the room to actually think about the renaming. So what should be the approach here if the company wants to do probably rebranding or maybe restructuring, and along with that, there is also will be a renaming. So what should be the mindset, approach, and probably the execution of it?
I was having several businesses in different countries, and sometimes I was approached by the marketologists or designers, and they were telling me, you have a very old-fashioned design, you have a very old name, and usually I was telling them, no, I do not want to change it. For example, it was an antivirus computer program, which was named like Ukrainian National Antivirus, and everything was quite well until we came to Latin America. Suddenly we realized that UNA, it's a short name of our antivirus, it's like one. So 1, 2, 3, UNA, and so on. And when you will put this name in the search system, you will find like first shop, first school, first university, first hospital, and we were forced to make renaming, and it was very painful. If you have several names in different regions, you will separate images, you will separate slogans, motto, and even visuals. So it's much easier to make rebranding for the whole world. The same was, for example, with Kaspersky antivirus. It was named like antivirus protection, AVP. But suddenly, American team still stole this name, and Evgeny Kaspersky was forced to make naming, and he named the company like Kaspersky antivirus. It is maybe not a good one, but quite a Russian way how to name it. For example, vodka Rasputin, or for example, dumplings Довгань.
And sometimes we also might be thinking about giving names that are located on the different territories to make sure that, like it's quite localized, it's not offensive, it really, like rings certain bells or maybe touch something strings in the hearts and maybe even in the pockets of the customers. Like, for example, there is an app that's called Karim. It's similar to Yandex Taxi or Uber. So the moment you want to place an order, instead of like saying submit, it says Yalla, which means like let's go. So it's actually quite good and demonstrates maybe the spirit of the culture, because people here like quite use like some of the like Arabic words. So what should be the considerations when we like stepping into the new territory? What should be the good words or maybe like a bad words or unknown words that we should look at, or maybe some other aspects, even the historical ones, that we should use or avoid?
This is a story about Sunny Company. Previously, it was an attempt to name the company as a Sunny like a sunny side egg, something like this. But suddenly they realized that in Africa, Sunny it's mean some bad, and so they switched it to Sony. The same was with my antivirus. Sometime in different countries, Ukrainian or antivirus or even national, it has a bad meaning. So you should avoid territories, or you should use special agencies which will help you to check your naming. There is like, I don't know, like 100 agencies around the globe which could help you to check for 12,000 languages. But when I was trying to check some of my products, some of my services, suddenly I realized that almost all words already occupied by bad words. For example, there is a short story, like, do you know this book, very famous one, Moby Dick? But in Ukraine, in American language, dick it means something which is not good.
Yeah, that's correct. And we also may want to switch gear and like speak about the different type of the naming, something that we may want to use in life. So for example, let's say, like when we mark in some books or like using names for the items or even for the files in the system, it also may help us to, like find something or address, or maybe, like work with something with the object by knowing how to find it by using a correct address or the alias or whatever. So what should be the approach here, if any, if you want to be more efficient and actually come up with the good titles for the objects that surround us?
There is a good word in Russian. I don't know how to translate it in English, but it's named like nomenclatura. Nomenclature. I don't know how to say.
Nomenclature.
Nomenclature. So this helps you to make a name for the files. Usually you should use several parts. First, it's type of the file. For example, table or explanation or some research or the way. Second, you should write client or division of the company who created. Then you should use some explanation. For example, salary survey. Then you should use data, for example, salary survey for 2024. And then you should use underline and also date in Japanese format. And if you will use another way, for example, like Russian format, an American one, it will prevent you from sorting.
And my last question will be how knowing about naming could help make this world a better place.
I will tell by the words of Confucius. This is Chinese wise man. He was already once asked, what would you do if you will be an emperor of Great China? And he replied, first I want to be sure that everything is named correctly. In this case, we could avoid misunderstandings.
Что говорит о том, что системность появилась веками назад, а мы рассмотрели навык нейминг и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!